There's an invisible line dividing two types of occult practitioners. On one side, those who work with sacred geometry, celestial alignments, and complex symbolism. On the other, those who use physical ingredients, candles, herbs, and offerings. The first is called high magic, the second, low magic. But this separation isn't just technical. It carries centuries of social hierarchy, power struggles, and control over who gets to access forbidden knowledge. During the Middle Ages, this division determined who would be revered as a sage and who would burn as a heretic. And the most disturbing part, it still exists today, hidden within secret societies, esoteric orders, and even Silicon Valley. The question isn't which one is more powerful. The question is, why was one elevated and the other condemned? The birth of the split. The distinction between high and low magic didn't appear out of nowhere. It has deep roots in Greek philosophy, Neoplatonism, and the reorganization of esoteric knowledge during the Renaissance. In the 15th century, European humanists began recovering Hermetic, Kabbalistic, and Gnostic texts. These writings spoke of a divine, magic, and intellectual, mathematical, celestial practice. Figures like Marsilio Ficino and Giovanni Pico della Mirandola argued that true magic didn't involve crude matter. It operated through the mind, contemplation, and alignment with higher spheres. It was the magic of philosophers, astronomers, mathematicians, a practice reserved for the educated, the wealthy, the male intellectual elite. Meanwhile, folk magic practiced by healers, midwives, wise women, and rural workers was seen as inferior. It dealt with blood, earth, roots, bones. It was visceral, and therefore suspect. The separation wasn't merely aesthetic. It was political. High magic was accepted because it seemed compatible with Christianity. Low magic was persecuted because it seemed pagan, primitive, dangerous. Building the hierarchy. In the 16th century, Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa published De Occulta Philosophia, one of the most influential works on Western magic. In it, he divided magic into three categories: natural, celestial, and ceremonial. Natural magic worked with the hidden properties of plants and minerals. Celestial magic dealt with the influence of the stars. Ceremonial magic involved invoking spiritual entities. Agrippa made it clear, ceremonial magic was the highest form. It required Latin, knowledge of angels, mastery of complex sigils, and moral purity. Only educated men could practice it safely. Natural magic used by peasant women was considered the lowest rung. This structure wasn't neutral. It reflected the society of the time. Men on top, women at the bottom. Educated above, illiterate below. Urban versus rural. Rational versus instinctive. The Inquisition reinforced this division. While scholarly magicians like John Dee could correspond with the English crown about angelic communication, thousands of women were executed for healing diseases with herbs. The real crime? Accessing power without institutional permission. The difference in practice. High magic is ritualistic, symbolic, and mental. It uses pentagrams, magic squares, planetary invocations, and sacred language. The practitioner doesn't manipulate physical objects as much as they manipulate correspondences. They don't burn a candle to attract money, they align with Jupiter's sphere at the correct astrological moment, pronounce divine names in Hebrew, and visualize energetic geometries. Everything is calculated. The magic circle drawn on the floor isn't decorative. It represents an ontological barrier between the material world and the spiritual world. The triangles of evocation, the planetary seals, the magical hours. Nothing is random. High magic follows a precise internal logic, almost mathematical. Low magic, on the other hand, works with what's at hand. It uses colored candles, local herbs, bodily fluids, personal objects. It doesn't require formal education. It doesn't demand Latin. Its power comes from intention, repetition, direct connection with natural forces and local spirits. It's the magic of crossroads, offerings, silent pacts. It's pragmatic. If it works, it serves. There are no philosophical treatises on why a rhubarb wards off the evil eye. It simply works, has for generations. This technical difference hides something larger: narrative control. Who decides what counts as elevated magic? Who defines what is primitive superstition? The answer has always been the same: whoever holds institutional power. The colonial and racial legacy. When European colonization spread across the world, this hierarchy traveled with it. African, indigenous, and Asian spiritual practices were automatically classified as low magic, or worse, as demonic witchcraft. Candomblé, Santeria, hoodoo, curanderismo, all were marginalized, criminalized, and demonized. Meanwhile, European grimoires, even those containing demon invocations, were treated as valuable historical texts. The Key of Solomon, which teaches how to evoke 72 infernal entities, is preserved in museums, yet Candomblé temples were, and still are, raided by police. This isn't coincidence. High magic was coded as white, male, European, and intellectual. Low magic was pushed to the margins: black, feminine, popular, corporeal. The distinction was never just technical. It was always about who can claim spiritual legitimacy. In the United States, hoodoo, African American magical tradition, was ridiculed as ignorant superstition, while white secret societies like the Golden Dawn operated freely, studying Kabbalah and Enochian magic. Both invoked invisible forces, but only one was considered serious occultism: the hidden truth. Here's the secret that esoteric orders rarely admit: high and low magic have always worked together. High magic grimoires frequently require low ingredients: menstrual blood, human hair, graveyard dirt, animal bones. Aleister Crowley himself, ceremonial magician par excellence, used sex, drugs, and animal sacrifices in his rituals. The separation was always a convenient illusion, a way to maintain social control. The powerful wanted the knowledge, but didn't want to share the prestige. So they created a narrative: our magic is divine science, theirs is primitive witchcraft. But the results? Identical. Both alter consciousness, both manifest intention, both work with invisible forces. The difference lies only in packaging. And who controls the discourse? Orders like the Golden Dawn and Ote preserved the distinction to maintain exclusivity. Initiation into high magic required money, leisure time, formal education, and social connections. Exactly what the working class didn't have. It wasn't about spiritual talent. It was about keeping gates closed, the modern hierarchy. Today, this separation manifests in new forms. In Silicon Valley, tech CEOs study chaos magic, hermetic rituals, and occult symbolism, but call it consciousness hacking or mental optimization. They do ayahuasca retreats, practice tantric meditation, use psychedelic microdosing. All of this is accepted, even glamorized. Meanwhile, a woman reading tarot at a street fair is still viewed with suspicion. A folk healer curing the evil eye is ignorant folklore. A priest channeling spirits is a charlatan. The difference? Social class. If you have an MBA from Stanford and talk about neurohacking through altered states, you're cutting edge. If you're poor and say you pray to spirits, you're backward. Tech companies hire corporate ritual facilitators. Executives do men's circles based on Jungian archetypes. Influencers sell crystals for hundreds of dollars as quantum manifestation tools. It's the same magic, but with modern branding and inflated prices. And it works, not because it's superior, but because it has cultural legitimacy. High magic has always had that: the privilege of being taken seriously. The future of the divide. With the rise of artificial intelligence and quantum technology, a new layer is being added. Some modern occultists now speak of techno-magic, using algorithms, cryptography, and neural networks as ritualistic tools. Sigils are no longer drawn on parchment. They're encoded in blockchain. Will this be classified as high or low magic? Probably high, because it requires technical knowledge, capital, and access to technology. The hierarchy adapts, but doesn't disappear. It just finds new ways to separate the initiated from the profane. Meanwhile, traditional practices continue to be marginalized. The grandmother who performs blessings is still seen as superstitious. The programmer who uses sigil magic and code is visionary, even though both are doing exactly the same thing, programming reality through symbols and intention. The real question is no longer which type of magic is more effective. The question is, who decides what counts as legitimate knowledge? And what do we lose when we treat ancestral wisdom as inferior just because it doesn't come from a book in Latin? The division between high and low magic was never about power. It was about control, about who can claim spiritual authority, about keeping knowledge accessible to few and suspicious to many. The truth is that all magic works by the same principle: directed intention through symbol and action. The rest is social theater, and the most successful theater in occult history was convincing the world that there's a natural hierarchy between spiritual practices, when, in reality, there's only a hierarchy of power. So what do you think? Is there really an essential difference between these practices? Or is it just another way to divide and control? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this content made you question something you always accepted as truth, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Every week we reveal secrets the powerful prefer to keep hidden.